I know. I let you all down because I missed a week. But I think I have a fairly good explanation because I had an episode ready to go all about Chinese politics and what is happening in Hong Kong right now. Long story short, because I'm not going to get into it this week, I've decided to completely scrap an episode. Basically, there are protests, or there were at least protests going on in Hong Kong, which is separate from the Chinese mainland, and forever they've been allowed to sort of practice law in their own way, their own form of law. They have the same laws essentially as the mainland, but their punishments are different. So people are protesting because they want that to stay the same, but the main Chinese government's trying to change it. Either way, because of how complicated, the politics are in a dictatorship, the news sources that I was using turned out to be less than reliable, shall we say. So I'm really disappointed in that. It kind of came to light later on after writing significantly into the episode and kind of being ready for the week, for the whole episode, which sucks, and I apologize, and I didn't put out a statement because it kind of just, I waited to the last minute, thought maybe I was going to do something, ended up going to bed and being like, no one will notice. Turns out people noticed. I got a whole bunch of messages and emails, but thank you for those of you that reached out because you noticed the episode wasn't posted. For everyone who didn't notice, damn you, I suppose. But it's cool. Most people actually, when I look at our download history, they tend to download the episodes in big batches and listen to like 2 or 3 in a row, which is cool. I'm totally down for that. However you choose to consume the media, I implore you to consume it that way. But I wanted to preface this episode with an apology because I didn't plan on missing it, but I'm working on another project that will be mentioned in the next few weeks, maybe about a month from now, but it is a lot of video editing on my end, and we just finished recording it the day before the podcast last week was supposed to go live, so I had no energy to re-script a show and to try to come up with funny things to say. But that being said, I basically had 2 weeks worth of dumb jokes and things to talk about. So, as I say in the beginning of every episode, check it out because it's see, I already fucked up the name of the show. Just, you know what? Fuck it. Hit the intro. Hey, check it out. It's the Laugh to Learn podcast. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 20 of the Laugh to Learn podcast, your weekly source for a comedic spin on all the goings-on in the world. I come to you from the Great White North every Tuesday evening, except last week, Eastern Standard Time, fresh for download so that you can listen to it first thing in the morning, Wednesday when you get up to work. Get up for work. I screwed up the pre-show, and now I'm screwing up the intro. Oh, what a week it's been. What a 2 weeks it's been. But either way, when you go to work on Wednesday, this podcast is going to be there ready to go, no matter where you consume it on all major platforms. I just want to say right now that a lot of people are talking about Spotify issues with different podcasts. Last I checked, mine is still up on Spotify. If that changes, I will do my best to fix it. But I've heard rumors that there's content issues, that Spotify's kind of randomly searching for things that they don't like in podcasts. And if that's the case, and they take mine down, if that's even true, that's the rumor right now on Reddit. And, Reddit is Reddit. I shouldn't really trust what you read on Reddit. So if that's the case, I doubt that my podcast will be allowed to be held there. So, but for now, like I said, it's still up there. Everything is groovy. So hopefully it stays that way. But any podcasting platform you are on, I welcome you to the show. This podcast, as always, comes to you on all of those platforms completely ad-free. And all I ask is that you subscribe on any platform that you happen to be using, even if it's YouTube. Be the 1 or 2 subscribers over there. Sorry that I don't put much time into you, YouTube, but just the way it is. And tell your friends about me. That's really what I want. I want you to come back every week. And every week I want you to tell one person about the mustardly, whatever that word means, the power that be, the Laugh to Learn podcast. And if you talk to someone about it in person, that's actually even better than a share over social media. I mean, you can use social media to brag about how fucking awesome it is. I can even throw it a like. That way all your friends are like, wow, that cool guy that hosts a podcast liked your post. And I'll do that for free. You don't even need to pay me to do that. If you want me to sell something, you can pay me, but not on this podcast because it's ad-free. So once again, talk to someone in person about the podcast, share it over social media, and come back every single week. Today, I'll be covering safe injection sites later, but that is a shorter conversation to what we'll be having at first. But safe injection sites is a really important topic to cover, and I'll also be introducing a brand new segment mid-show. I hope to be doing a whole bunch of stuff like this slowly over time to roll out. But first, I want to discuss some recent events that have got me thinking lately. So, welcome back. Once again, sorry about last week. I hope you enjoy the show this week, and let's get to it. And big shout-outs before I get into this to landlines, because maybe you heard, I happen to be in a house that still has a landline, and it was ringing in the background there. And most of it should have been gated by the mic, but listening back, I can hear a little bit of it. Anyways, shout-outs to those of you who still have a landline. My personal advice, get rid of it and get a cell phone. So, have you ever been driving around? Just driving around. Wherever you're going, I don't care. But you can almost pick out, just like fleas on a dog, all of the dumbass drivers around you. They're just hopping around out there, just doing their little flea thing, and you're just looking at them, you're like, you are a dumbass driver. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean like the stereotypical ones either. Not like, hey, you notice the old Asian ladies on the road. Like, no. I mean the real, like, dumbasses. Okay, because this week I had 2 different dumbasses right near me on the road. And both were doing essentially the exact same thing. And if given the opportunity, I would have slapped both upside the head. So, the first was on Friday. I was coming home, and I swear to God, this has genuine meaning towards the end, okay? I was coming home in heavy summer weekend traffic, because this was last Friday. I live north of the city of Toronto, where a whole bunch of people like to spend their summer weekends. I like to spend every day of my life here, because, fuck living in the city. But, weekend traffic is a usual occurrence, and I'm just kind of used to it. But I'm sitting on the highway, just kind of waiting, not moving anywhere, and I could see on the other side of the highway, going in the other direction, there looked to be a very serious accident involving a small school bus. So, like, oh shit, you're thinking like maybe some dead kids, and that's really sad. And then after you sit there for like 3 or 4 minutes, you go back to singing along to some Blink-182, acting like you're still 10 years old, because that's what we do in society today. However, as I was passing the accident, so like at this point, I've been able to see this bus crashed, and there's no one on it anymore. Like, everyone's kind of gone. We've been sitting here for like 15 minutes, not going anywhere. But I'm now passing it, and traffic is picking back up again. People are able to drive. The dumbass in front of me, oh, no. Comes to a literal dead stop. A literal dead stop. There was no one in front of him, no police on our side of the highway, no reason, just stopped. Why, you may ask? Because that's what I asked myself. Well, because he had his phone out filming, literally fucking filming, what luckily turned out to not be as bad an accident as it looked. But he wanted to be Mr. fucking TMZ over here, okay, slowing down literally hundreds of cars and therefore thousands of people, like quite literally one of the most busiest routes in the world. Pro tip, guys, okay, don't be Mr. TMZ. And I can see it. Like, I can see his phone filming through his rear window. He was right in front of me. Okay, so that was the first one. And after that, you're thinking, like, wow, like, people are damn dumb as hell. And then, last night, I'm getting off the highway. Almost made it all the way home without any problems. That is, until waiting for a red light on the highway exit. Because, you see, yesterday, okay, side note, police found a body, okay? Shit like that happens sometimes around here. So they found a body just off the highway there. Whatever, 40-year-old dead dude. No one knows, they haven't said anything about it, whatever. The other side of the highway, which is where the body was found compared to where I was lined with, you know, cop cars and TV crews and fucking cameras. And for some reason, the dumbass chick in front of me decided she should be on Anderson Cooper's level and started snapping photos with her phone and uploading them to Instagram. Like, literally sitting there looking at these cops. Like, the cops are just standing around, you know, like, what the fuck you ever see, like, in real life, maybe most people haven't actually, but whenever there's, like, a dead person or some shit like that, all the cops just kind of stand around, and there's, like, 2 cops that are in the bush working, like, you know, taking pictures where the body was and fucking drawing shit in chalk on the leaves, or, I don't actually know, like, they draw chalk on the sidewalk, I guess. What do you do on the leaves? Like, spray paint? That's got to be, you know, someone in, like, some environmental groups got to be pissed about that. Anyways, you know, all these cops are standing around doing fuck all, and here's this bitch fucking taking pictures of the cops standing around doing nothing, just waiting to pull someone over, because what the fuck else are they going to do? So, she is dumb as a damn post, and I can literally see her doing this through the rear window of her car after the light went green. So now I have a green light, everyone's gone, she's at a dead stop, posting these things to her story like anyone gives a fuck that you drove on the other side of a road that a body was found on earlier today. Like, did you find the body? What the hell do any of us care what you saw? That you think people care that you saw someone else who was called because someone else found a dead body? Because that's literally what happened, right? She's taking a picture of the cops who were only there because they got a call from someone else who called them because they found a dead body. So you're taking a picture of, like, the 4th person to arrive at the scene. You're like, oh, look, the cops are here. No shit, they're always there. Just go on fucking localnews.com, and there's the cops standing there waiting to figure out what's going on with this dead body. So you may ask, what is the moral, Jacob, of this here story, as brilliant as it may be? The moral is to mind your own damn business, especially while driving. You are driving a car. The guy on Friday and the chick on Monday, you're driving a vehicle. And you're, like, don't even get me started about texting and driving and talking on the phone and driving. You're taking a photo in the Instagram app to post it to your story, and she even slowed down again to, like, because the story finally posted, and then she could post another picture, so she's, like, quickly snapping another one, and I'm like, I gotta turn left, get the fuck out of the way. People are honking, I'm honking, and she's sitting there, like, pressing her phone rapidly, like, trying to take this picture so she can, like, whatever the hell, you know, hashtag lol. Ugh, it pisses me off. So, this, honestly, is the strange part of the internet that I, for one, will never understand. I don't think I will ever fully get it. And this is coming from someone who talks into a mic and thinks people care what he has to say, okay? And a few people do, but when it comes down to it, like, I am under no impression here, you know? Literally, no one cares. Like, when you post a photo, no one cares. I don't think people realize, honestly, the effort and work that even, like, a small podcast like this with a small consistent audience size that like I could make minimal ad revenue, but the amount of work that goes into it is insane. The amount of work that like a Kardashian thinks of before, what photo they're going to use and how to edit the photo and what they're going to say on the photo. And obviously now they get staff to do it, but they got there themselves. It's an insane amount of work. And no one makes friends this way. You know what I mean? Like, who the hell posts a photo on Instagram, gets someone, like, comment on the photo, and ends up having drinks with them later this weekend? I would say, has it happened? Sure, it's probably happened, but few and far between. That's not how you make friends, and it's not how you get famous. A few hundred likes literally doesn't help you at all. It doesn't make you any money. It doesn't get you any endorsements. It doesn't do anything. So if I were her, the way I look at it is, why not get home 15 or 20 seconds faster to be with your family? Why not just watch a concert, and then take someone else's video off YouTube later? Because I've totally done that. I was at a show once. I'm not going to say whose show it was, because then all my friends will know the videos that I put online weren't mine. But I didn't take any video. I took a few photos, like when before the show started, of like me and who I was with, and like, oh look, we're here. And then I put my phone, because you're waiting for a concert to start. There's fucking nothing going on. And then, we put your phone away, talking to the people around you. The show started. It was a fucking banger. And then when I got home, people were like, how was the show? Did you take any video? And I was like, did I take any video, YouTube? Sure enough, actually, there was a dude just near us who filmed like the whole fucking thing. Sure enough, I saw him filming the whole way through. And his videos were on YouTube, and I took a few of them, and I sent them to people. I was like, yeah, it was fucking great. Look. And there's the whole concert. Because other people are doing it, so why are you? 1 or 2 photos of yourself there will do. And then if you really want to watch the show back, everything is online. Like, you can find everything you do no matter where you are. This dead body, just fucking go on the news, and there's pictures of it from a closer angle than yours. Why do you need your friends to know, like I said, that you drove by? It's so strange. So on a personal note, I've actually actively tried for almost a year now. I think it was about September or October of last year where I realized what was happening in my life. But I tried to dedicate my social media almost entirely to self-promotion, which maybe for obvious reasons because of, the podcast and other things that I do. But it's also not so obvious because I actually found that at home I was wasting my time scrolling through, looking at other people having fun. And then I realized that we all kind of do the same damn thing as far as just social media in general is concerned. Because every week or two, each one of us has I hope this for you at least, that every week or two, each one of us has this dope-ass day with, photos and videos and comments, and everyone's having fun and a good time, and it's awesome. And that day, that one day out of every 14, 2 days a month, everyone else online is admiring how great, my life is or your life is. And then the next time they see our public persona, it's 2 weeks later and it's another great day. But what no one sees is the 2 weeks in between, that we live vicariously through everyone else's good times. And I mean, there is something to be said about it because clearly, a lot of people, it does cause like depression and anxiety and stuff like that. But clearly, en masse, it kind of helps us all to be happy because, like, oh, my friend's having a good time today, and then tomorrow that friend's having a good time, and then look, it's my turn to have a good time. And it's kind of good, but it's honestly, from my perspective at least, it's really fucked up because I kind of realized, like, I'm looking at everyone else have fun. I'm not having any fucking fun. So I started going outside or, doing something that I find fun. And what I ended up doing is I tried to substitute my social media with just reading. Like, pick up a book. When I find myself scrolling through Facebook, pick up a book. Because it's far better, it's more interesting, and I've actually found a few different books, some of which I've talked about here on the podcast that I really enjoy, and it's far better for you, I am certain, than social media. So I had to mentally get over that hurdle of wanting to not only read about what was going on with everyone else's lives, but to share so much information with the world. And instead, channel it directly to basically the product you're listening to now. So A lot of people don't have an outlet, which I understand, and it's a lot of work to have an outlet, but I think it's really important to try and channel everything and control it. Be aware of how much time you're using on these different platforms. And of course, you can also catch me on Instagram at Jacob_Paveo, and you can find that link in the description to this podcast. I implore you to follow me, but honestly, I haven't done enough research into growing on Instagram as a platform because I'm working on growing a podcast, and as I mentioned at the top of the show, a yet unannounced YouTube show. And if you've never done so, because a lot of people I honestly think are convinced that, you might post something that'll blow up. Because, yeah, like, it's totally true that you might get a post that goes viral. I've had one, I guess two. One, I won a contest. I won a sweepstakes with Sportsnet, which is a big Canadian sports network, obviously. And I won a trip to a Stanley Cup final game through a tweet because I entered a contest on Twitter. It was legitimate. I got flown for free to Pittsburgh. I sat in the second row, Pittsburgh, San Jose, dope ass, Stanley Cup finals, that was game 3. It was fucking awesome. That tweet had like tons of people in on it. And then the other one was like literally a random tweet to a random celebrity. It was Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park. And I randomly said something completely out of the blue, and it just got picked up. And tons of people were in on it. But guess what? I gained like 4 new followers, and that was it. Because people just get in on the tweet or the Instagram photo or whatever, but they don't go to the original account and follow you back. So there's, generally speaking, very little to gain about, one post being super successful. So, if that's what you're doing, like if you're trying to like whatever it is, even if you run a small business, if you're marketing yourself for particular reasons, I implore you, if you've never done so, to read up on metadata analysis for your favorite platform. So whether it's YouTube or a podcast network, a social media network, because they're all super different. The way that you have to post on YouTube is different than that's why my podcast literally gets no views on YouTube. None. But it gets tons of random views off of podcast services because that's what I gear all my metadata towards, and I don't do any for YouTube because it takes tons of time. I always talk about, like, I put no time into YouTube. I put hours every week into podcasting platforms because that's what I'm trying to build. And eventually, I'm sure I'll pivot to YouTube with the podcast, but I spend more time every week truly trying to optimize podcast search engines rather than I do writing and recording for this podcast. And that's the truth of anyone who's like huge on social media. You get to a point, I've heard from friends I know who are very successful at it. You get to a point where you just understand how to write descriptions and how to tag things that it works well for SEO, search engine optimization. But these are full-time jobs in social media today. So you or I posting, a few hundred photos over a couple of years with like hashtag dogs of Instagram, which is what you'll see on my account a lot because I fucking love my dog. Get over it. Okay. It's a fun thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, and then your friends like, oh, you have a cool dog, and some random people will be like, oh, your dog's fucking cute, and it just gives you this like, hell yeah, my dog's cute, or whatever pet you have, or whatever it is, But it does nothing to help you grow an audience. It does nothing to help you grow as a person. So like taking a photo while you're driving your car, it doesn't, just please don't do that. Like, don't risk your life for that. It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's not going to get picked up by the most popular search engines each and every day if you really don't know how to do it for a living. So, when I see 2 people within a few days clearly willing to risk their lives and their license, because using a phone and driving in Ontario is now an automatic roadside license suspension. Literally, the cop takes your license from you. It really makes me feel sad for people, honestly. Like, I want people to look at the sky, look at the trees, look at the birds, Teach yourself to enjoy and love the natural world around you. Like, I don't know, maybe I smoked too much weed in college or something, but, like, we only have a couple of years here, So unless you personally benefit financially, or like in my case, you have an unrelenting need to be a know-it-all and tell people what you think, don't live your life for everyone else. Because even if you listen to the most successful people talk about social media, right? The Kardashians being the number one example. Joe Rogan, who blew up in the last 4 or 5 years, talks about it. You can look at even politicians who have since retired. You can read it in their autobiographies, I should say, talking about how you do just have to shut it off at a certain point, because it'll drive you crazy and you'll become obsessed with it, and it doesn't help you grow as a person. So it's not easy, but I think anyone can do it. And I'm not saying quit cold turkey, because you got to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram, right? So you can't go completely in the dark. That's not okay. But even if your job is on Facebook, right? Like you sell things, you're a salesperson or whatever, and you're contacting clients on Facebook, or cold calling. I don't know what they call it now, like random messaging people on Facebook to get sales, whatever the hell they call that. You shouldn't be working every waking moment of your life. And honestly, social media is more of a job than anything else. So just turn it off every once in a while and walk away. And as I said, enjoy what's around you, live in the moment, and, just take it easy, relax a little. Smoke a little bit of the ganja. Maybe you're going to go over there and get a little bit of the reefer. And then maybe you're going to pour yourself a little bit of a drink.
Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning.
It may be shitty audio quality, but you have been warned. This is a new rotating segment I have dubbed Trigger Warning, where I give you the hottest of hot takes. And since this is a podcast, you have to go to Twitter or Instagram to hate on me. As I just said, you probably should do less of. But anyways, so at Jacob Paveo on Twitter, or at Jacob_Paveo on Instagram, both of which can be found in the description for this podcast. This week's trigger-worthy, hottest of hot take statement is: we should let all of these straight pride parades happen. Okay, look, I know it's Pride Month, and straight pride isn't exactly the idea, okay? But hear me out for a second, because who the hell is actually going to show up? This is the thing about straight pride parades, is they're not a thing. And there's a reason that they're not a thing, because literally no straight people are feeling the need to go out and march and show people that they're straight. It's not a thing. And if they are doing that, they're probably not straight. They're at the wrong parade. Okay, I mean, they're at the right parade because they want people to think that's where they want to be. But let's be real. If you're walking down the street flying a fucking straight pride flag, whatever the hell, an upside down rainbow, like a smiley face rainbow, I don't know what that looks like, okay? But there is no one, literally no one, who's that desperate to show their straight, or I shouldn't say there's no one. There's at least someone, but there are not enough straight people to show up to ever make this a thing. So what I think we should do to stop all of these straight pride parade things, because every year in June it's Pride Month, and there's a parade in this city, a parade in that city, and there's fucking naked people walking down the street, and all the straight people fucking clutch their pearls and go screaming and running, and they want to have their own parade. Have your own parade. I think let them have it. Because if we give them the parade next year, okay, let's plan the parade for July 6th, okay? Random day, just after July 4th, which is, of course, I think Independence Day is what y'all call it. Just after July 1st, which is Canada Day, the Canadian equivalent. And guess what? They can have their parade. And I tell you what, I'll go to the parade and take pictures. I will. I will go to the parade and take pictures of it. I might even host a podcast from there, because the comedic evidence that I would acquire would be worth so much more than the time it took me to drive to whatever city it is to be there and watch all of those straight people get totally upset at how few people actually show up to that straight pride parade. Because I guarantee you, 3/4, 75% of the people who say they want a straight pride parade would not get off their ass to march in one. That's why they don't exist. That's why the gay parade exists, is because so many gay people are down to fucking get up and walk around the street together. Why? I don't know. I'm not gay. I can't tell you why. I've never been marching. I've never felt the need to march in a gay pride parade. But guess what? They want to. So fucking let them do it. Just let them do it. I don't understand. This is another strange thing. I talked about strange things to come out of the internet age. The overwhelming hatred for other people having a good time is totally one of them. And like, there's a few things, like people get mad that there's naked people walking down the road and they're like, oh, there's kids there. But they're not your kids, right? And if they are your kids and you don't want your kids to be somewhere where you brought them anyways because they're fucking kids, why'd you bring them there? It's very strange. We live in a strange time with strange things going on. Would I be walking down the street naked or perhaps wearing leather chaps with my ass showing? No, I wouldn't. Maybe if I hit the gym more, I would. I'm not sure. I'm not that guy. However, there's guys out there and gals out there who want to do that. And one day a year in every city, so realistically, you can get to 4 pride parades a year. So they get 4 days a year if they travel for, 3 of them and one's in their local town or whatever. 4 days a year, they get to strut their stuff, doing their thing down the road. Just fucking leave them alone. Like, they've been through enough. There's no need to have this discussion. Have your straight pride parade. Like I said, July 6th. That's the day I'm throwing out there, okay? Let's have the straight pride parade. All the cameras will be there to watch you walk, and you'll be on film for everyone to see your straightness so that we can all bask in it from, most people from the comfort of their homes on the 6 o'clock news, and there's you waving your straight pride flag with, honestly, there's no straight sex toy. No matter what you do, no matter what sex toy you choose to walk down the street with, it's going to look a little gay. They won that, okay? You can't have you and your wife, you can't have handcuffs, you can't have whips, you can't have leather. It doesn't matter. So you have to wear all your clothes because otherwise, the gays won that. You just have to give them the sex toys and the sexy outfits. So you need to find your own thing. I guess maybe that's the problem. Straight people don't have their own thing. Oh, poor straight people. They need their own thing. They can have kids, so that's what we should do. The straight pride parade should be when you take all your young children and you dress them up nice and you walk them down an aisle and show them, you know what? This already exists. There are child beauty pageants. That's going to be the new straight pride parade, I think. If you want a straight pride parade, bring your child who you naturally conceived and, your wife or you naturally birthed, and take them to a beauty pageant with only children, because that is something that a gay person can't produce. Well, actually, they can now, right? Yeah, they can. And I'm not just talking about transgender, but you can borrow a uterus. That's a thing now. But it's still only one of those gay people's kids. But still, it is a natural birth. Yeah, sorry, straight people have nothing. We don't have anything. Am I going to cry about this? No, because I haven't suffered at all. Just get the fuck over it. Hold your parade. No one's going to show up. I will. I promise you I'll be there. If there's a straight pride parade within the nearest area, I'll show up to document it so that all my viewers can know about it. I promise you that. If one's coming up, let me know. Fuck, I hope you don't let me know about one because I'd have to go. But, yeah, that's why. Just so everyone's aware. No one wants a straight pride parade. That's why they don't happen. Okay? So, I hope you've been triggered, and if not, well, someone's been triggered. And if you haven't been triggered, then trigger me this. You've been triggered? I don't know how to end this segment, so I'm just going to cut it dead like in 3, 2... Don't forget to subscribe and share the podcast with your friends and family. Tell them all about it. Mention it at work to your coworkers, at wherever you play with all your friends, be it the soccer field or the strip club, I don't care. Tell them about it there. Tell your stripper tonight. That'd be nice. You can be like, hello, I was going to go with Candy, but that's like the most basic, stripper name. But now that's the only stripper name I can think of. So you go, hey, Candy, have you heard the Laugh to Learn podcast? And she'll be like, no, baby. Tell me about the Laugh to Learn podcast. Because I picture Candy to be like, 50-year-old older lady stripper with still a rockin' bod, but like, you can tell she's been around the block a time or two. And you can tell Candy all about the incredible content that comes to you each and every Tuesday, completely ad-free. And as always, I would like to thank you, including you, Candy. Thank you so much for the support. And feel free to reach out to me anytime using the contact page at www.laughtolearnpodcast.com or over any social media network, which are posted in the description for this and every single episode on your podcast platform of choice. Note to self, need to fix the intro to trigger warning, and I guess I need an outro. I didn't really think that one through. I thought it would be funny, and then I just kept talking because I didn't know how to end it. So that's what happens, folks, when you podcast without a script. But onto the final topic of the day, which, lucky enough for you, unlike this section, the next one is properly scripted. So I will see you on the other side of the guitar strum. Shout out to my cousin here who totally bailed on an interview with me for this topic, and I was hoping to get my first interview in on the podcast here because that is a project of mine, I guess you could say, going forward, that I'd like to include some other voices. But even though she is educated and works in the field, somewhat of an expert, I suppose she just couldn't handle the pressure that comes with being on a below average, though not quite dead yet, podcast. Either way, last night, my hometown had a vote in the city council on whether or not to allow a safe injection site to be opened on the outskirts of our downtown area, right beside really one of the largest homeless shelters in the city. The reason I wanted my cousin here, who again is listening to this and bailed on me, was because she used to work for that homeless shelter up until very, very recently. Now, I will be upfront about this because I think it does no favors to bury the lead here. I've never been a user of hard drugs, but I've lived with a user before, and I've been around users a lot in the past. I've attended funerals for overdoses, and I've been at the bar with people who were hospitalized hours later, okay? So through all of that, I have to say that I am pro being able to use any drug you want, absolutely any drug you want for personal use. And even more so, I am fully supportive of safe injection sites. So what is a safe injection site? For those who don't know, it is a location where the most basic explanation of it is it's a location where someone who is a frequent user of intravenous or needle-based drugs to legally bring their own supply and to use those drugs under the supervision of trained professionals who are equipped with things like naloxone and defibrillators and all sorts of other first aid technologies to assist if someone were to overdose within the facility. And beyond just drug use, however, the facilities are so much more than that because they offer several other programs such as counseling, group meetings, basic health services, needle exchange programs, and access to sterile injection equipment and alcohol swabs. Yes, we give them needles because guess what? If we don't, they share needles, and that is how lots and lots of disease was getting spread throughout the 80s. Everyone only wants to talk about sex. Sorry, drug use was a major, major cause of things like HIV taking off. Now, this is a topic that I have found in the past as someone who has been very pro-injection site for several years. When you first hear about them, they sound crazy, right? And it's really, like, I remember I thought, like, what the hell, that's stupid. But I'm talking, this for me was several years ago, almost 10 years ago. But after you look into it, it's really hard to explain to people who live life with blindfolds on, which is, it really needs to be said that the world is a shitty place. And I think I've said it on this show before that if you've ever walked around a mall, you've walked past a major drug user who was high as a fucking kite and you didn't even notice. And I'm not talking about someone who's stoned. I'm just talking about someone who is high as a kite, using what you would consider to be very hard drugs. Okay, the thing is, it is so prevalent and so easily hidden. Like, drug users are not what you think of in the movies, like clawing at their face and whatnot. Like the Wolf of Wall Street, hardcore drug user, right? Functioning drug user. Obviously, fairly fictional. However, it's reflective of reality. And it's so easily hidden that I think the fear of these places, these safe injection sites, comes from a truly honest place of I don't want that around my family, or I don't want that in my community, right? That seems to be the side that lots of people come down on, which I understand. But, and to be honest, within my own family, I've had this argument with people who are against it, who have this same feeling. But I think it's far more important to be honest with people and say that it's already in your community. And it's just that right now, people have to use in an alleyway and die on the street at night because you don't like the idea of quote-unquote enabling them. And that's honestly, it seems overly simplified, but that's the truth, is so many people are using drugs right now. So many. So many. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, okay? Friends who I know that I've found out, you're talking to someone and people will tell me, because of my experiences in the past, people will tell me whatever, I used this for a little bit and whatever, I don't anymore. But it's crazy because there are some people who I've genuinely been shocked to hear, and it's damn, and it's so, they're so embarrassed by it. And there's nowhere for them to go. They can't go to a doctor because a doctor will want to hospitalize them. They can't go to a counselor because they're actively using drugs. So they feel like if they go to a counselor, they can get in trouble. The police can arrest you for this. It is insane the way we have the world set up right now. It drives me crazy. So locally, the recent vote here ended in a decision to hire essentially an investigator to compile more data on the location of the site and the impacts in the surrounding area, which I, for one, can understand, right? These are obviously local politicians who are talking about spending money to build this thing. It's a big deal. And, I mean, really, it's important for them to have all the information. You don't want a politician making a decision when they don't have all of the information. So that's understandable. But I worry about the delay through the summer because there are more active users in the summer in the streets than any other time of year, especially here in Canada where it's very cold in the winter. And that's where you get people literally dying on the streets because they're not using in their house where, someone might come across them, they, might hear them fall over or something. They're literally sitting in an alleyway, dying, literally dying. And, okay, so in an attempt to not localize the story, because I have listeners, thankfully I have listeners all around the globe, I've deferred to facts here provided by the CCSA, which is the Canadian Centre on Substance Abuse, and they just recently put out all of this combined information from around the world. And I'll preface this. I'll start this by saying that they openly admit that there are only between 40 and 50 legal injection sites in the world, and that number simply isn't enough to derive any real statistics from. Okay, so they come right out and say it, that we don't have enough data on the whole to present for this. However, we have seen in long-term placement of these safe injection facilities, such as in Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Germany, there is significantly reduced accounts of high-risk behavior, such as sharing devices, meaning needles, improper disposal of needles, and unprotected sex. All rates of all three went down significantly. Also, in the only 2 completed studies ever, there was a direct link between safe injection sites and an overall decline in drug-related death in both Germany and Switzerland. We've only done 2 studies because both of those facilities have been open since the late 80s, and there's been a significant reduction. As well, in a 1999 and 2000 study of European injection sites, and Europe was really big in pushing these back in the late 80s and through the 90s. So there were a number of them there, and there still are today. So it was found, basically in the year 2000, it was found that not one single death was ever reported in any European injection site, and they were used every day. Okay, that's what this comes down to. Not one person died. They're going to use the drugs anyways, but not one person died. And I don't know if just the like I said, it's the living life with the blindfolds on. If you think that these people kind of don't exist, or you look at them as like, I don't want to put words into people's mouths that like, oh, it's just a drug user or whatever, but like these are like legit, like when people say like it could be your child, like it literally could be your child. It's so easy, and people are like, no, like to grab a needle and blah blah blah. Dude, it's so easy. Like literally I've seen it progress so quickly. Like so quickly. Some people are just drawn to it. I am not. I've like literally been sitting right there looking at it, and it's like there's nothing in me that's like, yeah, I've mentioned it before. I have an extreme phobia of needles. I've said it openly on the podcast. I literally pass out when I get my vaccinations. Like, you have to lie me down on the fucking table because I go the fuck out. Literally. Why? I don't know. But I could never be an intravenous drug user because I literally cannot handle needles even a little bit. That being said, there are people who are just super drawn to it. They want that high, and they strive for it. And it's like, to them, it's the greatest feeling in the world, and they fucking love it, okay? So if that's your child, sorry, but rather, I should say, if it's not your child, I'm sorry, but it could be. Like, it could very easily be. And it could take, like, literally, like, 4 weeks. I've seen someone go from, like, never smoked a cigarette to, like, what the fuck, literally smoking meth. Like, in 4 weeks. And luckily, he stopped very soon after, but a lot of people can't. They just can't. And it's like, oh, it's so real. It's so real. And I see it and I hear about it all the time. And like, you know, my cousin works in these facilities, and she sees people come in who it's like, buddy just started using like literally a month ago, and now he's like full-blown drug addict, can't get help anywhere because you can't you don't want to tell your family, and you know it looks bad to walk into, like, a lot of counselors won't see you because you're a drug addict and you're irrational. But these people need somewhere to go for help, and these centers offer it, and they stop people from dying. Not one death in any European injection site over 20 years. 20 years. It's crazy. Now, along with the noted benefits, this is for the people who are worried about drugs on the street. The biggest gain for them is that 30% of users in Hamburg, Germany, reportedly consumed significantly less in public since they began attending safe injection sites. 30% off the streets and into a safe injection site. Now, I don't know about you, but I seriously believe if you isolate 30% of drug use off the street, that means your child, who may be more easily influenced or drawn to that sort of activity, is 30% less likely to run into someone using. You know what I mean? 30% less likely to run into it because they're not on the streets using anymore. That's a good thing. I've not at all have I heard a genuine argument against them. I just haven't. Sorry. And there's people, like, literally the biggest argument against it is that there's not enough information for it. But I'm like, I'm sorry, we have to try something, guys. Like, we have to try something. So many people are dying. So many people are fucking dying. We need to do something, right? Clean needle programs work, right? HIV, not a thing anymore. It's not a thing anymore. It's, like, seriously not a thing. When's the last time that there are a few people I know in the LGBT community, particularly men, who have serious concerns with it. But it's not a thing in the drug community because everyone gets clean needles. And so now we don't have to worry about them catching hepatitis and HIV and, other diseases which would normally be sexually transmitted that could be transmitted by intravenous drugs and by needle use, right? So it's like the amount of that worked, and that's something like a lot of people still hate clean needle programs. Like, I don't want my tax money going to that. Sorry, but in this country where we pay for your health care, I'd rather spend 75 cents on a needle than $35,000 to keep you on a ventilator for a few weeks because you're dying of HIV. Even though, HIV drugs even, right, are covered when you're in the hospital. That's so expensive. Spend 75 cents on a needle, bro. Do you? Because you're going to do it anyways. I'd rather you not get sick so I don't have to pay for that treatment. Because that's honestly what it comes down to. And it's very strange that this is becoming more of a political issue and a partisan issue, because liberals are very in favor, conservatives are not. But the financial benefit, from my perspective, is so significant, it doesn't make sense for someone who claims to be fiscally conservative to be against this. And I would have that debate with anyone who would be willing to do it. I encourage anyone who's against these to explain to me on the podcast. I'd open it up to anyone to explain to me why. And I'm not talking about a debate because I'm not an expert, and I would assume that whoever that person would be wouldn't be an expert. But I would have I'd have so many questions for them for why the lack of evidence is reason to not try something, right? I don't know what happened to people just in general, because we're a country that, we as a nation developed the vaccine for the Ebola virus. We as a country did that. Why? Because we saw a problem and we went and tried and figured it out. We did that 4 or 5 years ago. This is something that's bigger. It's been going on for longer. It's killed more people than the Ebola virus ever did. Drug use is a major cause of death in our country. And this could be something that at least reduces the likelihood of a younger person on the streets running into another drug user and getting into it as well. 30% off the streets in Hamburg. Why not give it a try, wherever you are? So, as I know a few local counselors pop into the podcast on occasion, and I hope this reaches them, and I hope your discussion outside of the podcast maybe even reaches them. Maybe you didn't know this was going on, because the voices that matter most here, they're not the ones who protest. They're not the ones who I saw on TV yesterday protesting against this safe injection site. The voices that matter here the most, they're the ones who lose their voice forever because they overdosed around a group of people who were too high to realize it until it was too late. So please at least try to not send me to another funeral. Try something. And help us clean up our streets in whatever city you live in by providing users with a safer place to go. Thank you all for tuning in this week and listening to the podcast. I really encourage you to take these discussions from today outside into the real world with your friends or coworkers, or with me over on Twitter or Instagram. Jump into any one of my photos and throw a comment about the podcast. I'm always down. Or, of course, the contact page on www.laughtolearnpodcast.com, even though, of course, as I said earlier, not to be spending so much time on social media. It's totally cool if you do it for me. I have required listening this week for my listeners. The Joe Rogan Experience with Bob Lazar. Seriously, super interesting. I'm totally going to do an episode on UFOs now. There's someone I actually want to do the episode with, because I think you guys would like it. I think the two of us together would be awesome. So I'm trying to set that up. It's no one famous or anyone exciting, but for me, it would be super exciting, and I think it would be really enjoyable for you guys. But the Joe Rogan Experience with Bob Lazar, seriously listen to it. Even if you don't believe at all in aliens and UFOs and stuff, it's so interesting to listen to this guy, because he said a bunch of shit in the 80s that no one believed, and then you look at it now and it's like, actually there's video of him saying it then, and there's a bunch of shit now that he was correct about. I will talk about this when I actually do a podcast on it, but I'll tell you ahead of time in case you're not scientifically inclined. Element 115, not the most convincing thing because you can we know what the periodic table looks like before we actually identify elements. So anyways, you'll get it when you get there. But there's other things he talks about that are like, shit, he was right. So, maybe he's right. I don't know. Anyways, as always, this podcast is ad-free, and all I ask is that you share it with your friends and family, talk to your coworkers, talk to your loved ones, and subscribe on any podcast app or on YouTube, and tell your friends about me each and every week. Thank you all. And of course, I will see you next Tuesday, knowing full well that for sure we are only a week away from another episode.